Today we will be discussing the War of 1812. The year was 1812, just 36 years since declaring their independence from Great Britain. The United States declared war against them once again. The War of 1812 was a feud between a young nation and a once powerhouse nation that had control over the other. Hostilities remained between Great Britain and the United States, stemming back to the end of the American Revolution. Following the signing of the Treaty of Paris by Great Britain and the United States in 1783, the two sides remained in a bitter dispute. The United States declared war in 1812 for several reasons, including trade restrictions brought about by the British war with France, the impressment of American merchant sailors into the British Royal Navy, British support of Indian tribes against American expansion, outrage over insults to the national honor after humiliations of the high seas, and possible interest in American annexing of British North American territory in modern-day Canada, which had been denied to the United States during the Treaty of Paris. By engaging in war with the United States, Great Britain became the first country to invade the young nation. The only other nation to ever do so was the Confederate States of America during the United States Civil War. Many engagements were had between the two sides, both on land and sea. The British were at a major disadvantage at the beginning of the war, however, because the majority of its army and naval forces had been tied down in Europe, fighting the Napoleonic Wars until 1814. The British at first used a defensive strategy in the upper provinces of Upper and Lower Canada. A good local connection to this war was the Battle of Lake Erie in 1813, which ended in victory for Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry. The Americans gained control of Lake Erie in 1813, seized parts of western Ontario, thus ending the prospect of an Indian Confederacy and an independent Indian state in the Midwest under British sponsorship. In September 1814, the British invaded eastern Maine. This territory, along with parts of Michigan and Wisconsin, were held by the British and Indian allies for the duration of the war. Also in 1814, during the Battle of Baltimore, an American soldier by the name of Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, which would become the national anthem for the United States. On August 24, 1814, after defeating the Americans at the Battle of Bladensburg, a British force led by Major General Robert Ross occupied Washington, D.C. and set fire to many public buildings, including the White House, the Capitol, as well as other facilities of the United States government. The government was forced temporarily to relocate within the city while their headquarters were being rebuilt. Another major event during the burning of Washington was First Lady Dolly Madison and President Madison's personal servant and slave, Paul Jennings, removing many numerous valuables from the White House, including the portrait of our first president, George Washington. This and many other removed items are still on display in the White House today. They would have likewise perished during the fire. The War of 1812 ended in the later stages of 1814 when the two sides signed the Treaty of Ghent. The most memorable battle toward the end of the war was actually fought following the unofficial truce of the two sides. Word did not reach General Andrew Jackson, who was fighting for control of New Orleans. The British engaged General Jackson there and were outmatched in every facet of the battle. Following the battle, word reached General Jackson and the two sides put down their arms. The War of 1812 is commonly forgotten or overlooked in history. This is greatly due to its close chronological proximity to the American Revolutionary War and the U.S. Civil War. It is important that the war is continued to be acknowledged and taught in schools today because it helped shape the rest of the 19th century for the United States, as well as the implications it had on early 20th century imperialism. Thank you for listening.